Welcome to Financial Coffee, brought to you by Resource One Credit Union, ignited by the credit union movement and inspired by not wanting to be broke. So come have a sip as we try to come up with just the right blend of financial tidbits to help you achieve your money goals. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on this wonderful day. Welcome back if you've been before, or maybe you're a newbie, but we have an awesome, fantastic, yes, I said fantastic series that we're starting today. And yes, it is going to be over history. But don't leave yet. Don't leave. We're going to make it as interesting as possible. And it's all about credit unions. Of course, this is a credit union show, but we like to give more information. We like you to know who you're banking with and where we come from. You know, history, that's why it's important. So we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. And, you know, it helps us grow. But I do have an awesome special guest with us here today. Mike, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Veronica. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. And so he's going to help us understand some of this history and digest it a little bit. And I'm super excited. But of course, I first have to ask you, what are you sipping on today?
So today, just a Diet Coke. We're kind of later in the afternoon, so sipping on a Diet Coke today.
Well, I have to keep our legacy alive here on Financial Coffee. I am having a straight up black coffee right here, and it is fantastic. It's been cold here in Texas, so we got to stay warm some kind of way. So that's what I'm doing. So let's get right into it. So today we want to talk about, again, credit union history, but specifically how it has grown here in America and worldwide. Credit unions have been around for quite a long time. So since 1845, worldwide in a whole bunch of other countries. So a lot of people have this same motto, and we use the same general ways of speaking when we're talking about what we do. But I think that it's important for us to talk about some names, some people who have helped make the credit union industry what it is today. You want to start us off, Mike?
Sure. So, credit unions started in 1845 in the Bavarian region of Germany. It was brought together by a bunch of farmers that couldn't plant new crops when it was time to plant crops, or to sow their fields at that time from the banks at the time. So instead of going to those banks to continually get turned down or to be charged exorbitant interest rates for borrowing money, they decided to kind of pool all their money together. And so as the different seasons came, they kind of worked together to make sure it's potato season right now. So the potato farmer is going to borrow from the wheat farmer whose season is later in the year and who's currently selling at the market. And so they started as cooperatives in Germany in the 1840s. And then they really kind of kicked off in North America with a man named Alphonse Desjardins. He was a Canadian. He was born in 1854. And he really got the credit union movement started here in North America in the late 1900s or the early 1900s, specifically in Canada. But he also was instrumental in beginning credit unions in North America across the United States as well. He actually started the first credit union in New Hampshire. It was St. Mary's Bank, but technically it is a credit union. And that location is still there today. It's actually the America's Credit Union Museum.
Have you ever been?
I have not had the opportunity to go, but I just love to visit that region. But if I ever got up there, I would absolutely pop in and see it.
It's kind of cold right now, but anyway. Another cool person that kind of crosses our minds when we talk about the credit unions are Edward A. Filene, or sometimes they say Filene, but Filene, correct me if I'm wrong. He was a millionaire. So he had lots of money and a family business, and he helped introduce different ideas to the credit union movement, different innovative ideas. And that's something that's very important to us in the credit union world. We want to be able to provide services and think of new things to serve the people that we serve. And so he was the start of that. So he introduced things like profit sharing plans and minimum wage for women, work benefits, our famous 40-hour work week, things like that. So he found out about the idea of credit union co-ops in India, and from there used his own money So he used his own dollars that he had, $1 million to be exact. And that's about $3 million. That would be $3 million today. So that's a lot of money. He had the money and he used his efforts. And so he used his own efforts, his own grime and, courage to go out there and father the U.S. credit union. So you may see him in whatever credit union you may visit, you may see something about him, but he was the one who helped get things going and get people in and introduce, brand new ideas. So that's a name that you'll probably hear around a lot here in the credit union world.
Absolutely. So, he was absolutely instrumental in developing credit unions across the United States. He was a very progressive thinker, obviously, from some of the things that you did mention. But not only was he influential just in his ideas, he was influential in who he influenced. So one of the most important people in the credit union movement, especially in the United States, is a lawyer. His name is Roy Bergergren, excuse me. And he's kind of known for developing the way that our system works, to make sure that it's a cooperative system, to make sure that the states passed laws to make sure that that credit unions were able to thrive back at a time that the financial system was pretty much dominated by just a handful of very, very large banks. And so they were really instrumental in making sure that not just the credit unions were started, but also that the legislation was there in place, that they were going out, they were talking to politicians to make sure that the environment was right for credit unions to thrive moving forward as well.
So during this time, many people didn't even actually trust the new things that we were coming up with, the credit unions. And I always say we, but that credit unions were coming up with at that time. And so I think it's kind of important to kind of point that out, but they thought that credit unions were a scam. And so I even kind of hear a little bit about that today. When people talk about a credit union and they don't, really know what it is, that's kind of what it reminds me of. They're like, oh, well, credit union, they can't really help me. They can only serve this. It's just things that you hear because you don't fully understand what the credit union does and what they were trying to do at that time in order to help people that couldn't be helped other places. But yeah, they thought that the credit union was a scam and all the different things that they were doing. So just along with that, we have so much more that we want to talk about with this. Did you have anything you want to add to that part, Mike?
Yeah, just, as far as the population not trusting credit unions at that point, they had grown up where, the banks were there and that was their only option. And so as far as, where you would go to put the money, where you would go to borrow money, those kind of things, especially the working class person, that wasn't really an option for them because the banks were not made for them. And so just any financial institution or financial, cooperative, whether it was a bank, credit union, anything, there was very little trust, period, from just the working class person at that period of time. And so a lot of that distrust didn't really come from the unknown of credit unions. It was just the distrust of financial systems in general. People would, you hear the term storing your money in mattresses. People really did that. They would bury their money in their yards. They would hide money. They would borrow money from loan sharks as opposed to coming to financial institutions. And that's where a lot of that fear came from.
Yeah. And so now, just like then, just like now, we have a place that the working class can come to and have access to your money where you can get better deals, because we're not, and I don't like to use the word deal really, but we're all working together. The cooperatives, we're cooperating with each other, and we're just here to serve our member and meet your needs. And so sometimes going to those bigger financial institutions, you have to fit in their box. And that's what it was then. They had to, you had to fit in their box. And if you didn't, you couldn't get helped. So that's what credit unions are here for. I could go on that rant right there, but I'm going to stop it here. We have a part 2 to this awesome series that we're talking about the history. Come learn with us. I'm learning more stuff. We hope that you learn more stuff, and see you on part 2.
Bye.
So if you ever have any questions or comments, just like a credit union, we're here to serve you. So let us know what you want to hear. Email us at financialcoffee@r1cu.org. Again, that's financialcoffee@r1cu.org. cu.org.